What if the very people you trusted to protect you were the ones hiding the darkest secrets? Imagine discovering that beneath the polished surface of a powerful corporation lies a web of deception threatening to destroy everything you hold dear. Miles and Nora thought they were just ordinary people until they stumbled into a conspiracy that reached the highest ranks. A missing translator, a silenced voice, and a hidden truth that could topple an empire. But when the quietest person in the room steps forward, the game changes forever. This isn't just a story about corporate corruption, it's a story about courage, resilience, and the power of one voice to ignite a revolution. Stay with us, because what happens next will shock you, inspire you, and remind you that sometimes the greatest heroes come from the most unexpected places. Miles Turner didn't like surprises. Since losing his wife 3 years ago, his life in Cedar Hill, Oregon, had been quiet and predictable, just the way he liked it. His world revolved around his 8-year-old daughter, Tessa, the local elementary school where he taught music, and Sunday breakfast at Pine and Lantern Diner. But on a cold Thursday night in early November, everything changed. There was a knock at the door, 3 soft taps, urgent yet unsure. Miles glanced at the clock, 10:43 p.m. He wasn't expecting anyone. Tessa was asleep upstairs. The porch light flickered in the wind as he opened the door just a crack. Standing there was a woman drenched head-to-toe hair, clinging to her face, a thin coat soaked through. Her eyes wide and glassy locked with his. "Please," she said breathlessly. "I don't have anywhere else to go." Miles hesitated. The storm behind her was brutal, and she was trembling. "Do I know you?" he asked, gripping the door. "No," she said. "But I know who you are." That sent a chill down his spine, sharper than the November air. "I'm not dangerous," she added quickly. "I swear, I need a place to disappear for one night." Everything in Miles told him to say no. But something in her voice, something broken yet strong, made him pause. He opened the door. She said her name was Nora Hayes. That was it. No backstory, no explanation, just a soft thank you as she wrapped her hands around the mug of tea he gave her. Her clothes were too thin for the weather, her boots muddy and worn, and her phone was smashed beyond use. "Look," he said, leaning against the kitchen counter, watching her carefully. "I've got a kid upstairs, so if you're in any kind of trouble, I'm not." She interrupted almost too quickly. "Not that kind of trouble." He waited, but she said nothing else. Against better judgment, he let her stay on the couch that night. He left the hallway light on, and he didn't sleep much. The next morning, Tessa bounded down the stairs and stopped dead at the sight of a strange woman curled under her father's favorite blanket. "Daddy," she whispered. "Is she a fairy?" Miles blinked. "What, she has those eyes," Tessa said, "like the ones in my dream." Before he could answer, Nora stirred. The 3 of them sat awkwardly at breakfast. Nora didn't say much, but when she did, her voice was warm and clear. Tessa, ever curious, chatted freely, asking Nora about her favorite color, what books she liked, whether she believed in unicorns. Miles watched silently. Something about Nora didn't add up. Her hands were soft but calloused in odd places. She carried herself like someone used to being in charge but trying not to be seen. When he checked her name online later that day, what he found nearly made him drop his phone. Nora Hayes, former COO of Whitlow Enterprises. A woman at the center of a corporate scandal in Fairmont City. A woman who had vanished after being accused of leaking confidential merger data worth billions. A woman whose face had been on the news 3 weeks ago with the headline, "The Betrayal of Vanguard," and she was sitting on his couch. That night, Miles confronted her. "You lied," he said, arms crossed, his jaw tight. "You're not just some woman with nowhere to go. You're Nora Hayes, the woman everyone's been looking for." Nora looked up from the plate she was rinsing in the sink. "I didn't lie," she said calmly. "I told you my name. You never asked for the rest." He stared at her. "What are you really doing here?" Nora dried her hands, then reached into her coat pocket. She pulled out a tiny flash drive, no bigger than a paperclip. "They think I stole from them. I didn't. I discovered what they were planning, and I tried to stop it. Now they're making me the scapegoat. Why come here? Because no one would think to look for me in Cedar Hill, and because I read about you once. About how you fought your school board to protect a student. You stood up for someone who couldn't speak for themselves. I hoped maybe you'd understand." Miles didn't respond. Not at first. The silence between them stretched thin. "You have no idea what you're dragging me into," he finally said. "I know," she whispered. "And I'm sorry." But she didn't leave, and he didn't make her. That night, while Nora sat on the porch with a blanket and tea watching the wind rustle through pine trees, Miles stayed awake staring at the tiny flash drive. Some part of him still wanted to shut the door on all of it, to protect his daughter, to walk away. But another part, the part that still believed in justice, knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. If someone like Nora showed up at your door in the middle of the night, would you let them in? Do you believe Miles made the right choice letting her stay? What do you think is on the flash drive? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to tag where you're watching from. We love seeing this story travel the world. The sun had barely risen when Miles woke, but sleep was long gone from his mind. Nora's presence lingered like a storm cloud, thick, heavy, and impossible to ignore. Tessa was still asleep upstairs, blissfully unaware of the silent war brewing downstairs. Miles found Nora already awake, sitting on the edge of the worn leather couch, staring at the tiny flash drive in her palm, as if it contained the fate of the world. "Show me," he said quietly, voice rough with exhaustion and frustration. She hesitated, eyes darting toward the window as the wind rattled the leaves outside. Then, with a shaky breath, she plugged the drive into his laptop. Files popped up, encrypted folders labeled with code names and dates, financial charts, internal emails, recorded voice memos. The evidence of a conspiracy so deep, so carefully orchestrated, it could crumble the empire of Whitlow Enterprises and ruin lives. Miles felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders. This is why they're hunting you," he said, scanning through the emails between board members, plotting to sell off company assets and manipulate stock prices, destroying countless jobs, including his own communities. "They're using you as a scapegoat," Nora said, voice shaking with anger. "I tried to expose them from the inside, but when they caught wind of it, I became the target." Miles leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "Why come to me? Why here? Because you're the one person I thought might believe me. Someone who's not afraid to fight." Her words struck a chord deep inside. The man who had battled bureaucrats to keep music alive in his school felt a flicker of hope. But before either could speak again, the sharp ring of Miles's phone shattered the fragile calm. "Unknown number," he answered. "Turn around," a distorted voice hissed through the line. "You're in danger. Leave her. Leave the drive, or everything you love will burn." The line went dead. Miles stared at the phone, heart pounding like a drumbeat of warning. Nora's eyes met his, wide and fearful. "They know where I am," she whispered. "They always find me." Suddenly, the quiet neighborhood felt less safe. The next few hours blurred into a tense dance of whispered plans and furtive phone calls. Miles moved quickly, texting trusted friends, his old college buddy Sarah, who ran a cybersecurity firm, and Leo, a private investigator with a knack for finding missing pieces. They agreed to meet at a local coffee shop, their faces etched with concern but determination. Sarah was the first to arrive, clutching a laptop and a coffee cup like armor. "They're watching every move," she said bluntly. "This is bigger than a corporate scandal. It's a cover-up, and it runs deeper than you think." Leo pulled out a file thick with photographs and notes, maps of Whitlow's network, names of shadowy figures, offshore accounts. Miles swallowed hard. This was no longer just about protecting a woman or exposing corruption. It was a battle for survival. Meanwhile, Nora's past clawed at the present. Late that evening, a sudden knock jolted Miles from restless thoughts. He opened the door cautiously. Two men stood there, faces obscured by scarves and dark jackets. "We know she's here," one said gruffly. "Hand over the flash drive. No one needs to get hurt." Miles felt Tessa stir upstairs. "No," he said, voice steady, despite the pounding of his heart. "You'll have to get through me first." Before the men could react, headlights flooded the street. Sarah and Leo emerged from a black SUV, phones out ready to call for help. The men hesitated, then fled into the night. The adrenaline rush left Miles shaking. Nora stepped forward, determination burning in her eyes. "This isn't over," she said. "They'll come back. And next time they won't be so polite." Over the next few days, the tension mounted. Nora shared fragments of her story how Whitlow's board had manipulated markets, silenced whistleblowers, and threatened anyone who got too close. Miles saw her not as a fugitive, but as a warrior fighting against injustice. But Tessa's safety weighed heavily on him. Could he protect his daughter and still stand beside Nora in this dangerous fight? Then a breakthrough. Sarah decrypted part of the flash drive, uncovering a secret meeting scheduled in Portland, one that could expose everything. They had to act fast. The night before the planned sting, Miles sat alone with Nora on his porch, the cold Oregon wind whispering secrets through the pines. "Why me?" he asked. "Why risk everything with a stranger?" Nora reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. "Because you still believe in doing what's right," she said. "Because I need someone who won't turn away." Miles looked up at the stars, feeling the weight of choices to come. Tomorrow everything would change, and there was no turning back. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. If you were in Miles's shoes, would you risk everything to help Nora expose a dangerous conspiracy, even if it puts your family at risk? Share your thoughts below. We want to know what you do and why. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from. The dawn was crisp as Miles, Nora, Sarah, and Leo drove toward Portland. The weight of the coming day hung heavy, but so did a fragile thread of hope. For Nora, this was more than a fight against corruption. It was a battle to reclaim her dignity and protect the future for her and for all who had been silenced. For Miles, it was a leap of faith into a world far beyond his quiet life. The city's skyline loomed ahead, sharp against the misty morning light. They parked near the conference center where the secret meeting was to take place, a clandestine gathering of Whitlow's most powerful executives. Sarah's fingers flew over her phone, streaming live feeds from hidden cameras Leo had planted around the venue. Every move, every whispered conversation was being recorded. Miles glanced at Nora. "Are you ready?" he asked. She nodded, her jaw set. "This is our moment." Inside the conference room, men in tailored suits spoke with cold calculation. The air buzzed with greed and secrecy. What they didn't know was that their plans were being broadcast live to the authorities' media outlets and thousands of viewers online. As Leo and Sarah fed evidence to the proper channels, Nora stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. "This ends now." The room erupted into chaos. Phones rang, security scrambled, and the executives' carefully built facade began to crumble under the weight of truth. Outside, the news spread like wildfire. Whitlow Enterprises faced investigations, public outrage, and a wave of resignations. Miles and Nora watched the news coverage in a small cafe, the tension easing into a cautious optimism. For the first time in years, Nora allowed herself a smile, not just for the victory, but for the possibility of a future where she and Miles could build something new, free from fear and deception. In the days that followed, the community rallied. Whitlow's workers, once silent victims, found their voices. Families who'd lost livelihoods saw a glimmer of justice. Miles and Nora stood side by side at a community meeting, their hands brushing a quiet promise of solidarity and healing. Tessa ran around laughing with newfound freedom, the weight of uncertainty lifting from the household. But the true victory was personal. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Miles and Nora sat on the porch of his modest home, the sky painted in hues of pink and gold. "I never thought this would happen," Miles said softly. Nora smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Neither did I. But sometimes the hardest battles lead to the brightest dawns." Miles turned to her, eyes glistening. "Thank you for trusting me, for fighting, for believing." Nora squeezed his hand. "Thank you for seeing me when no one else would." Their journey was far from perfect. There were scars, doubts, and moments when the past threatened to pull them under. But together they found strength. They became a symbol, a testament to courage, to the power of truth, and to the unbreakable bonds forged in the fire of adversity. Months later, Whitlow Enterprises began rebuilding, this time with integrity and transparency. The executives who had plotted in shadows were replaced by leaders who prioritized people over profits. Miles, once a quiet music teacher, was invited to speak at the company's new community outreach program, a chance to influence change from within. Nora started a nonprofit dedicated to helping whistleblowers and victims of corporate abuse, turning her painful experience into a beacon of hope. The story of Miles and Nora spread beyond Portland, inspiring others to stand up, speak out, and believe in the possibility of justice. And for Tessa, it meant growing up in a world where honesty mattered, where her parents taught her that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the will to keep going despite it. On a cool spring morning, as cherry blossoms danced on the breeze, Miles and Nora stood hand in hand watching Tessa play in the park. They knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but now they walked it together, united by love, trust, and a shared dream. A dream where truth could shine through darkness and where every voice, no matter how quiet, could change the world. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. What did you feel when Miles and Nora finally stood up against the injustice? Do you believe courage can truly change a system as big as a corporation? If you were in their shoes, would you have fought or walked away? If this story moved you, comment 100 below. Tell us which country you're watching from. We love hearing your stories, and don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to hear it today.